ng mundo natin, sa tingin ko prognostication parang medyo laos na wala nang mga Nostradamus ang politics ngayon. Uh,
Th
we just take things
Thank
as they
you.
happen, bro.
Thank you very much. Parang
Ikaw, gusto matanong ko sa'yo,
sinira mo yung career ko ah. Public
anong
service.
feel, anong feels mo about predictions these days,
No,
bro?
no, no, bro. I mean, my arguments are very structural. Very, very structural.
That's
First of
true.
all, I mean, alam ko sa atin dalawa, ikaw yung historiador. Siyempre, as political science, I look at patterns, whatever, in my own way. No, una-una, wag natin kalimutan na kung hindi tumakbo si Pinoy noong 2010, si Erap Estrada yung naging presidente natin 2010 pa lang. So speaking of populist return, kitang-kita natin sa sariling kasaysayan natin na napaka-resilient ng mga populist
Mm,
at kaya
mm.
nila bumalik. Imagine mo yung nangyari kay Erap. EDSA 2, convicted plunderer, pinahiya, lahat niyan. Medyo hindi rin ganun ka-effective nung bumalik siya sa Manila. And yet, he would have become our president 2010 pa lang.
Bro, kung na-imagine mo paano kaya kunwari hindi tumakbo si Manny Villar, do you think his votes would have gone to ERAP and then panalo siya? It's
Probably even
you
more.
never
Yeah,
know, 'di ba? Oo.
probably even more. Tignan mo yung Thailand, katabi natin, pinaka-similar na country natin. 20 years ago, 20 years ago, taxing the father. 10 years ago, the sister. Now the daughter. So, ako naman, of course, we can always look at the differences, but ang dami ko nakikita itong populist resilience. Kaya yung sinend ko yung piece ni Sasha Monk sa'yo about Yasha, bro. Why is it so hard? Sorry, si Sasha Baron Cohen. I still have the movie disclaimer in my mind. It's a wonderful movie with the Kate Blanchett. But anyway, going back to this, also like Berlusconi, ilan beses siya bumalik hanggang sobrang matanda na siya. So the Melonis and the Salvinis came up. So ang akin lang, hindi ko naman sinasabi na exactly itong mangyari. Ang sinasabi ko is the structural conditions are there. And one of the structural conditions obviously is yung information ecosystem natin ngayon,
Yeah.
which favors something that you and I kind of run against. Imagine mo, aminin natin, the reason na nagdedebate tayo all those days is dahil idol natin yung mga nasa British Parliament na napakatalino, napakagaling, etc. And then na-analyze ko si Boris Johnson and how cynical he is. I said, look at it. Even the best debaters in human history, probably, Boris Johnson, brilliant guy. He's just so cynical. He realizes it's all about that messy hair and making jokes and all of that. So na-realize ko yung Tony Blair era of technocracy and brilliant guy and great speeches essentially ended. Obama was the last guy. Um, so that's the information ecosystem which amplifies yung mga more disruptor types, right? So
Tsaka yung isa pa diyan 'di ba yung crisis, ang daming crisis. So, so
100%.
populists thrive on crisis. So, yung
Uncertainty, right?
yung
Uncertainty.
uncertainty, 'di ba?
Uncertainty.
Yung
It's
initial emergence ng
psychological.
populism, they say, it can be traced back dun sa economic collapse or dun sa dun sa crisis ng ng 2000s. And then, in a way, if you think about Trump, but also the first Trump administration and this Biden administration, biktima sila ng COVID. So, if you remember noong 2020, early in 2020, dapat mananalo si Trump ng re-election eh. People were prognosticating na mananalo siya. Eh na COVID, pumalpak yung response. Tanggal siya dahil kay Biden. Ito, Biden actually is a great president by many standards. Yung ganda ng legislative record, merong soft landing on the economic crisis, pero tinamaan siya ng supply shock crisis ng COVID,
Inflation.
inflation, na natenga siya ng COVID. So in a sense, there's a kind of mirroring there. And I get this from Adam Tooze. Both the first Trump administration and the Biden administration and the Biden administration were victims of COVID. So in a way, parang I don't know if it's any source of comfort kung ano yung nangyari sa Republicans, nangyari sa Democrats ngayon, na biktima
Yeah,
ng COVID.
I absolutely agree with that, bro, in the sense that this was the anti-incumbency or bugbog sarado lahat ng mga governments in Europe, from Macron in France to Germany, Schultz, even worse. I get it. So actually things were really running against Kamala Harris. We'll discuss your kapitbahay shortly kasi we want to talk also about the candidate and the moment and strategy. But this is the third structural issue, and this is where I really appreciate yung argument of Francis Fukuyama. We may not agree with Fukuyama. I think he's much more conservative than both of us. I think we're both stronger believers in contemporary liberalism in the sense that naniniwala ko na maganda na binibigyan ng boses, plataforma, yung mga minorities, katulad mo, katulad natin in a way, LGBT, color, etc. Pero sangayon din ako kay Francis Fukuyama na yung toxic combination ng neoliberalism. So it's interesting to hear people from Hudson Institute and J.D. Vance
Talaga.
arguing against
Talaga,
globalization.
pare. Talaga.
Diba? So yung toxic combination ng globalization, which is benefiting guys in Wall Street back in the day, now maybe Connecticut, the BlackRock guys, and some people in Shanghai, Hong Kong, but most of us working class, middle class, nahirapan tayo, and an overemphasis on identity politics at the expense of class-based industrial, job creation-based discussion. I don't want to use the word class conflict, class struggle. I think hindi na talaga mag-work yan. Ang hirap mag-depends ng liberalism because now liberalism is a stand-in for that toxic combination of yung economic globalization, which used to be good, but it's not creating just for a lot of when I say toxic, not morally, I'm talking about politically, electorally speaking, especially when we talk about yung second part, which is what you can call woke liberalism. Woke
Yeah.
liberalism has its merits. I completely disagree with Francis Fukuyama that there's something wrong with it. I don't believe it's distortion. But pag sinama mo yung dalawan, ang hirap manalo ng votes dun sa working
Sabit ka.
classes.
Sabit
So
ka.
from an electoral standpoint, I just don't know how to sell this
Sabit ka.
liberalism anymore.
Oo.
So yun yung structural argument ko, bro. So that's where I'm coming from. And in the Philippines, we can
Tama
look at the
talaga.
variation.
Tama, pero yung Pilipinas, I think we are always reminded of working class politics because of the way we structure our surveys and also the way we talk about our politics. Remember, ang sampling dito sa US, ang assumption lagi ng sampling is people follow certain demographic trends. So they will sample based on ethnicity, Black, Hispanic, Asian American, 'di ba? So in a way, the sampling method is reflective of reality, but it also kind of makes people think baka ang divisions ng Amerika are ethnic divisions. Eh sa atin, ano ba ang sampling sa atin? It's always geography in class, 'di ba? A, B, C, D, and then Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao, balance Luzon, Metro Manila, Visayas, Mindanao, 'di ba? So ang reinforced difference always sa atin is we're meant to think about the differences between the Big Island groupings and the differences between class. So lagi natin nakikita when we process elections, sino ba gusto ng mga mahihirap? Dito, ang tanong, sino ba gusto ng mga blacks? Sino ba gusto ng mga Hispanic, 'di ba? And I guess that's an interesting difference because in the Philippines, we'll never forget class difference the way Americans did. Yun yung problema dito, nakalimutan nila yung class difference eh. They thought about Latinos, for example, as a ethnic bloc. When in fact, ang bifurcation ng Latino is yung working class Latino is starting to vote similarly to a kind of working class white non-college educated voter who they're voting for Trump, di ba? And these Latinos, you don't make them feel welcome by addressing certain identitarian concerns like, saying na Latinx kayo. Nako, para mga Pilipino yan eh. Maasal lang sa'yo yan pag tinawag mo silang Filipinx, di ba? I think less than 20% of Latinos identify as Latinx or maybe even less. I'm sure kung sinurvey mo mga Filipino, Filipinx, hindi rin. And it's that kind of thing na nakaka-turn off. Kahit ako mismo, parang I believe in diversity. Obviously, I believe in inclusion. Pero feel ko, sobra na yung yung kunwari, mandatory calling of yourself as Filipinx in the US. Pilipino ako eh. At saka galing akong Pilipinas. So, I understand yung mga Latino na parang, sino mga Amerikano sinasabi sa akin na Latinx ako when I'm obviously Latino. So may mga ganyang klaseng annoyances. Speaking of Kamala, because we're gonna talk about the incumbent, hindi naman siya nakatuon sa identity politics. Let's just clarify that. Pero yung accumulated defense of the Democratic Party of a certain kind of identity politics, a very narrow version thereof, tainted her. And of course, noong 2020, she bought into that then eh. So, madaling i-bring up yung parang yung mga old things na sinabi ni Kamala that could have that damaged her on that front. Yung pinaka-effective na campaign, isa sa mga pinaka-effective campaign ads daw against her was yung Kamala Harris is for they, them. Donald Trump is for you, di ba? And, that's obviously offensive, but it's effective for a certain kind of listener. Sanay naman tayo ng mga Pilipino sa ganyan eh. Alam naman natin na hindi porket bastos ka, matatalo ka, di ba? Lalo na in this day and age, di ba? I mean, we elected Duterte, so
Yun yung
hindi naman
sinasabi ko eh.
masyado
We live in an area that structurally favors disruptors. And at the same time, allows these disruptors to weaponize any annoyance. I think clearly may mga annoyance at this top-down cultural revolution. I mean, let's call it. It is a top-down cultural
Oh,
revolution.
yeah. Oo.
It is. I mean, again, I don't want to
Talaga.
put you into trouble. I know you're at the heart of that cultural revolution, and I don't mean it in a, in a pejorative term. It is a cultural revolution, right? If 10 years ago someone told me na, no, you have to be extremely conscious about saying this and that kasi politically incorrect yan. Well, still that's top down because there are costs. You're going to be ostracized by institutions. You're going to get canceled. The whole cancel culture. So I never felt cancel culture is bad enough to justify this and that. But I think enough people were annoyed to allow disruptors like Trump to completely demonize it and say, you see, this is like communism and all of that. Of course, Kamala is not communist. She was a prosecutor. One reason a lot of African American male were not into her is because of her background as a prosecutor, which of course we know how things work in the US. But yun yung problema. I think it was easy for Trump to caricature all the Democratic Party as a bunch of like Stalinist, top-down, dictators because of this annoyance around not everyone, but a lot of folks, I think enough folks who felt annoyed by this whole cultural revolution thing. Not to mention the issue of abortion and all is also a culturally sensitive issue. Obviously, in blue states like yours or among progressive like us, we are all for 100% rights for women. But there are a lot of Americans who see that as, well, parang pinapatay mo yung bata. Ganun na narinig ko dun sa mga conservatives sa US.
Sa akin hindi siya kasing wedge issue, as it is sa Philippines for being abortion. Dito abortion is popular. And that cuts across party lines. Malino naman yung data. It's popular. I think many Republicans were anti-abortion, and then nung bumagsak yung Dobbs decision and they realized, shit, yari ako. Wala na yung abortion para na akong Pilipinas. A lot of them backtrack. Kaya kung tignan mo naman yung electoral results, popular pa rin naman yung abortion as an issue. And most
It won
abortion
7 out of 10 states kasi it was
yeah.
the ballot.
Most abortion measures still passed. So I think that was still a strong point. Yung Dobbs is still strong for Democrats. But it wasn't enough to kind of counter the other factors that you mentioned. Dobbs, by the way, for our Filipino listeners, yung Dobbs, yun yung decision that reversed yung
Supreme
Roe
Court.
versus Wade,
Roe
which
versus
gave women the right to abortion, yung Dobbs decision.
Ako naman kasi,
Uh,
bro, I agree that more than 60, 65, 67% of Americans are for women having more rights, blah, blah, blah. Pero I also agree with that argument that iba yung framing niyan. It's more paternalistic framing from a mainstream standpoint than a more feminist understanding of absolute autonomy over your body. And the other thing is, among conservative Latino, Asian American communities, I think Trump was able to, to carve out just enough. So I agree with you. Now, of course, the data is majority of Americans are moving to the left on some of these cultural issues. But all Trump had to do is just to, get some more people from Latino, from Asian. Ganun naman ang game. He still lost the minority. The reason he's the president is because he won the majority of white women and white male. But ang game kasi dito, bro, is pitik-pitik dito, di ba? Pitik-pitik dito, pitik-pitik dyan. So and Trump was also smart enough to, at the same time, while getting the evangelical votes, he was also saying that, no, I'm not going to do anything new. I'm just going to pass it down to the states. So he was able to have the cake and eat it too. So
maraming example ng ganyan of Trump having the cake and eating it too. For example, yung Israel-Palestine, di ba? Yung mga pro-Palestine pinunish yung Democrats for, encouraging and supporting yung genocide in Gaza. But at the same time, they voted for Trump, who is actually more pro-Israel, and naging object siya ng protest vote. First, there were some people who voted for Trump as a kind of protest vote against the Democrats for supporting Netanyahu, but they voted for Trump. And at the same time, there were also people who voted for Trump dahil mas pro-Bibi siya. He had his cake and ate it too because nga of, I think, yung anti-incumbency bias. And then yung galit talaga. And the general rightward shift. Kasi the other thing that I want to point out nga pala, and ito yung mapapansin mo, even in California, there's a rightward shift because there's a sense of disorder. So for example, dito sa California, mga progressive prosecutor tanggal. Merong bagong sentencing proposition that raised the sentences for theft and drug usage. Pasado 79% or something like that, 70+%. Even if the very popular Democratic governor opposed it. Yung mayor dito sa San Francisco, si London Breed, tanggal kasi hindi niya masolve yung crime. Pinilitan siya ng isang konyo na mayaman who's the heir to the fortune of the Levi Strauss family. And this is in deep blue California, where ang tindi ng kind of rightward shift. And I must admit, kahit ako, hindi naman ako bumoto. But if I had voted, I wouldn't have voted in someone who said, defund the police, ganyan. Whereas maybe in 2020, baka okay pa sa akin. Pero nakita ko talaga na ang gulo, ang gulo ng California. Kaya
Can I
magulo
talk
talaga
about
dito.
that, bro? Kasi I don't know if you watched that, if you listened to that Ezra Klein episode, there was this discussion with this reporter. Ang argument niya is, if you look at the data, pababa yung crime, di ba? Yung index crime overall. But the sense of chaos is going
Oo,
up.
meron talagang sense
So
kasi
vibes siya, vibes.
alam mo, hindi naman necessary kasi na nagko-commit ng crime, pero yung sense mo na magulo. So, earlier today, galing ako LA this morning eh. Galing akong Skid Row. Oh my God. I mean, it feels like a kind of zombie town na parang ayaw mo maglakad doon. Ayaw mo maglakad doon. And then, I was just in LA, like yesterday in LA, I went to CVS. May pumasok doon, kumuha ng galon ng tubig, just walked out. Yung mga nagbebenta, some of them Pinoy going, sir, 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 are you gonna pay for that? They couldn't do anything about it. He just walks out and
Oh,
takes the
wow.
bottle of water. Normal yun dito. I was in Oakland maybe 6 months ago. Nasa auto supply shop ako, naghanap ako ng replacement auto parts. Sabi nila, ano daw, pumapasok lang daw yung mga tao, they take the auto batteries and just walk out. They just walk out, they don't give a shit. Alam nilang walang mangyayari sa kanila. May ganong klaseng sense of kind of impunity. Like actually yung sa LA, okay pa sige tubig yung kinuha kasi kailangan mo uminom nun eh. Pero yung sa Oakland, yung parang papasok lang kukuha ng car battery and then mag-walk out. May ganyang klaseng impunity na nakakainis na ewan ko, yun nga parang I know the statistics don't bear it out pero merong feeling and I don't know where that feeling comes from. I wonder if it's similar doon sa Pilipinas yung 2016. Kasi 'di ba noong 2016 sabi hindi naman talaga gano'n kataas yung drug crime sa Pilipinas, 'di ba? Pero nung sinabi ni Duterte malaking problema naniwala yung mga tao.
Kasi di
So
ba they think of the
what explains
tambay,
that?
they think of the yung mga epal-epal here and there. Vibes eh. It's a vibes thing. Para siyang yung recession, di ba? Vibe session. Because US economy
Uh,
is doing well among all major economies. My goodness, it's such a wealth. Every year I come back to US, I realize how wealthy US is. When I compare it to Europe and Japan and other places, like America is such a vibrant, dynamic society. At the same time, no one is appreciating that.
Bro,
Yeah,
I'm very happy with the state of my retirement fund. Let me just put it this way. Like the S&P 500, like kung if I'm just being completely selfish, walang problema ngayon. Walang problema ngayon. Lalo na nung nanalo si Trump, tinignan ko yung retirement account ko. By the way, you shouldn't, right, financial advice sa mga tao, you shouldn't be looking at your retirement fund. You should just keep putting money, walk away, don't look at it. Pero na-tempt ako the other day to look and wow, it's kind of nice after Trump won.
great people, amazing people. Now, bro, I want to go back to the basics, okay? And then I want to end on the Quadcom issue. The whole Duterte thing. But una-una, pwede mo i-explain para sa ating audience, ano ba talagang liberalismo? Because I think your book on the case of liberalism in post-colonial states like the Philippines was one of the most revealing one to me, in fairness. I mean, I've read a lot of stuff, but yours was really it hit home. Kaya nga after that, sabi ko, I'm a Leloy fan. After reading that book,
Salamat.
I'm officially a Leloy fan right now, right? Before that, parang
Oo,
I believe sa isa't isa, but after reading software, no, he's good. He's really good. Please, Guro,
salamat.
what is liberalism?
Salamat. As you know, the feeling is obviously mutual. The most cosmopolitan yet simultaneously balahura podcaster in Philippine politics that you'll ever find, my brother Richard A. Darian. So ang definition ko ng liberalism, dalawa. Kasi yung una, liberalism is a defense of freedoms. Right? Pero, and that's what liberty is, it's freedom. Pero it's not an untrammeled defense of freedoms. So I would qualify yung saying defense of freedom by saying that we are not just defending liberty, we are defending ordered liberty. And by ordered liberty, liberals usually mean that you can use the apparatuses of state power to engender liberty. Yun yung ibig sabihin ng ordered liberty. And then, of course, ngayon marami mga more expansive definition of liberalism, but I think I like that. So my definition of liberalism therefore doesn't preclude other things that we like for example, market intervention to create more social and economic justice. Pasok yun sa liberalismo ko because within that kind of liberalism naniniwala naman tayo sa positive freedoms or freedom not just from but freedom to. So and then the state in ordering liberty can ensure people's freedom to do stuff. And babalik ako sa and I think, as cheesy, as repetitive as this may sound, what will marami ko nang beses nasabi to sa podcast na to, pero ulitin ko lang, what will save liberalism is really economic justice. Because if the same liberals are the liberals na nagpapakain sa'yo, nagbibigay sa'yo ng healthcare, pwede mo silang suportahan. Pero kung yung mga liberal ay hindi yung mga taong nagbibigay ng edukasyon sa'yo, mismanage the government, nagkakanda gulo-gulo lahat, you will not just doubt the liberals, you will doubt the rights-based order that the liberals represent. Yun yung nangyari sa Pilipinas after kay Pinoy, yun yung nangyayari dito sa US ngayon. Ikaw, how do we ensure liberal survival? Or what can we do?
No, well, first of all, bro, thank you so much for that. Yung ordered liberty, that was one of the favorite part in the book. So like it perfectly captures my understanding of liberalism. But the way the pithy way you put it was amazing. For me kasi parati bro, binabalikan ko rin yung kasaysayan. Tsaka yung mga sinusulat mo, tsaka yung isang interview mo rin sa New York Times. What went wrong with liberalism in the Philippines? Kasi pwede natin sabihin si Rizal ay isang liberal, di ba? A radical liberal. Because liberalism was radical in 19th century Spanish colony, right? I mean, people forget that.
Yun nga, yun talaga yung problema eh. Sasabihin nila parang nauso nung 1970 saying na actually hindi radical si Rizal or radical si Rizal. Si Flore Kibuyan said actually radical si Rizal kasi hindi siya liberal, which is kind of weird because what was radicalism in the 19th century? Well, radicalism, a lot of it was liberalism because what were the major what is radical? Revolutionary. What were the revolutions of the 18th century? There or at 18th century, early 19th century, American Revolution, French Revolution, Haitian Revolution,
Italian
Mexican
Revolution, yeah,
Revolution,
Italian War of Independence, the same, all.
Mexican Revolution, Philippine Revolution, all liberal revolutions. So, paano mong sasabihin hindi radical ang liberalismo ng panahon na yon when all of the national liberation movements were actually liberal? So obviously it was radical. And so Rizal was a kind of radical. I mean, if he wasn't a radical, bakit siya papapatay ng ganon? Or isi-scapegoat ng ganon? I think there was something threatening about what he said. And I think liberalism, yung demand natin for freedom, is threatening to people in power. And ito lang yung sasabihin ko, lahat, sabi nga ni Ninoy Aquino, wala namang dictatorship that lasts forever. No suppression of freedom lasts forever. Lahat ng mga yan, yung Tagalog sinasabi natin may tanning. Ang tanong lang, gano'ng katagal yung tanning? Ang tanong lang, Richard, buhay pa ba tayo pag gumuho na itong mga sistemang to? Yun ang tanong. Pero guguho yan. Hindi lang natin alam kung kailan, di ba?
Wala naman akong masasabi dyan. Just to be clear, hindi ko naman sinasabi na forever na ito lahat ng mga nangyari ngayon. Ang sinasabi ko lang is, we need to do our assignment. Kasi kung hindi natin gagawin yan, kaya ang paborito ko mga kausap pagdating sa politika ay hindi mga French. I mean, in theory, mga French ang pinakamalapit sa akin in terms of, like the bon vivant, vivacious intellectualism. But actually, mga Aleman. Because ang mga Aleman, yeah, they're always the ones that keep me, keep my foot on the ground. Kasi when I'm with the French, I'm always like going into like this romantic phase of political thinking. But the Germans always told me something very, very interesting. Sabi nila, the liberal conception is that politics is a pendulum. What we experience in Germany is that once in a while, someone will come and put a nail and the pendulum doesn't swing back anymore. Mm-hmm. So be careful of that guy. Make sure that guy doesn't come. Make sure that nail doesn't come in. So completely agree ako sa'yo na pag tinignan mo kasaysayan, may swings talaga yan eh. May ups and downs yan. Pero minsan din, dalawang concern ko, the nail and then the secular trend. So yung structural conditions kung saan nagiging mas mahirap na yung technocratic, liberal, kung ano-anong yung inisip natin na mahalaga sa mundo natin. So yun yung those are things that keep me honest, on ground. But I am absolutely agree with you that of course emotions get in, frustration get in. Going back to the Philippines, ako naman kasi, tragedy natin na we had the greatest revolutionary thinkers in the 19th century, but we had the worst people to continue that legacy.
Oh my.
You know what I'm saying? Like, look at the Philippine political elite from Commonwealth on. I mean, of course, your upcoming book, fantastic, Quezon, Sir Osmeña, yes, but the overall composition, with exception
Okay.
cases,
Quezon, I'm not sure. Pero Osmeña, meron ako newfound respect for Osmeña, actually.
because of industrial policy and all of that,
Oo.
right? So that's the tragedy. We had the most brilliant guys at the forefront of Asian liberal revolution, and then by 20th century we had the worst people, and then it got even worse over time because you had the Codillo style like Marcos and the oligarchy to completely co-opt the system.
Nakalimutan mo ata si Tatay.
Wait, wala pa. Si Tata is 21st century. So,
Si Tatay. Oo pala. Oo.
yun yung problema ko eh. So, I mean, I won't be surprised na si Tatay ay actually idealistic at some point in his, I mean, you never know, right? He had some sort of a socialist communist bent, which
Oo.
doesn't make him okay, but maybe a part of him was still idealistic enough, and at some point he just became so cynical because he saw it's really warlords and oligarchs. So this distortion, bro, for me is the singular tragedy of the Philippines. That we had the opposite of original sin. We had an original blessing in the Ilustrados, and then we had the curse that came afterwards, which is this, godforsaken oligarchs and warlords who completely distorted our liberalism. Hence, we in the 21st century, biglang naging pejorative ang liberalismo sa Pilipinas. And to
Tsaka
be
yung
honest,
ano,
nahihirapan ako paano how to turn this around.
yung diktador natin did not place us on on an economic trajectory that would eventually create more liberal institutions. Kasi kung tingnan mo si Park Chung-hee, hindi naman siya liberal, pero he created a kind of economic system na in the long run allowed for one of the greatest economic miracles in the world that ushered in a kind of that eventually ushered in a kind of liberal democracy for a stable, very stable liberal democracy for Korea, 'di ba? Or well, Japan iba, pero in a way Japan rebuilt itself from the war and created an economic miracle that then sustained a kind of liberal democracy. Actually, in this world, we should also think about Japan because everyone everywhere is unstable, pero actually Japan is like one of the most stable liberal democracies in the world. Laging maaasahan. At if you're a watcher of Japanese politics, sure there are swings, pero by and large kaya mong huminga sa Japan. And I thought, people would have thought Germany was similar, but actually Germany like these days is kind of like nakakapraning na rin eh. Crazy na rin ang Germany ulit. But Japan
Germany
is
is
like
the East and West Germany reality is still very there, bro.
very stark, very
Japan
stark.
never had that. On the Japan issue, I remember earlier this year when I was in Tokyo, we had a conversation with one of the top, New York Times yata itong mga taon to. There was this metaphor na Japan is, the metaphor for Japan is how skyscrapers are built in Japan. So you can pass by a boulevard and for 2 years, they're just fixing yung ground, yung foundation. And then suddenly within 3 months, the skyscraper is there. So it's like, may pagka girl siya, yung quiet siya lang, and then, you know what I'm saying? May ganun siya eh.
Ganyan din ang social policy. One day, for example, ano ba, something is illegal, and then the next day it's legal, and then wala nang culture war about it. Tanggap na ng mga tao. Ganun. It's a very fascinating society, yung capacity to turn on a dime like that. I don't know kung meron tayo nun. Anyway, where was I? Sorry, balik tayo.
We're talking about Japan, no? If you look at
Yung Korea example, because yung Korea is
Yeah.
actually more comparable to us, diba, as opposed to Japan. Yung Korea was like described in the 50s as a bottomless pit of corruption, and then nagkaroon ng and then may diktadura din, may martial law din. Pero mas maayos yung diktador nila. I think yun yung problema natin. Meron tayong feckless caudillo caciques like the Latin Americans, pero bulok sila. Meron din tayong developmental dictator kagaya ng Korea, pero bulok siya. Parang whatever the others have na nahanapan ng silver lining, sa atin walang silver lining. Alam mo, parang
That's true. And the timing.
Anong klaseng kamalasan yan?
You
At
were
saka yung
also-
timing, sama ng timing lagi.
But I'll add something, and here I want to go towards a more positive note before we finish this podcast. And I know you're not a late night person, but ako kasi, bro, I hope I'm not being delusional. But the reason why I can still keep myself, smiling enough, I would say, cheered up enough, is because I feel mayroon na tayong second chance, brother. to get things right. I think the 21st century is a chance for the Indias, the Philippines, yung those countries who had the potential and messed
Totoo
it
yan.
up in the second half to get it right this time, because I think the stars are
Totoo
aligned.
yan.
Vietnam, na kawawang bansa throughout the 20th century, my goodness, from anti-colonial wars to French. Tayo mga bansang ganito, finally may chance na tayo. I would even put Turkey there. I think there are a couple of us around the world I'm looking at na baka etong century will be slightly kinder to us. I mean, fingers crossed. And I'm very,
Economic
yeah,
economic development, pinaka-bullish ako on Vietnam talaga.
Vietnam
Pinaka-bullish ako sana.
and
Pero
elect.
sana sana sumabay rin tayo kasi kaya naman.
Kaya naman. I mean, we're still
Oh.
growing faster than Vietnam. But as I understand, Vietnam is moving into services. I was with call center people. They were telling me even call center pinapasukan ng mga Vietnamese. So we have to move in the other direction in manufacturing, industrial policy. And for me, there are two things we need to do moving forward to make sure this century will get it. Yes, Trump will be there and US will be protectionist forever. Yes, but we have to leverage yung ating geopolitical position and tell to America this. We got the second largest reserves of nickel on earth. All the nickel mines, cobalt
I
mines
see.
are all dominated by China. Good luck, Indonesia. Good luck,
I see.
Africa. You want to make sure your EV battery production, your supply chains are not China dominated or China free. Come to the Philippines. We have the second largest reserves and we can expand production. So we can leverage that. We are just next to Taiwan. I'm from Baguio. We have been proudly producing Texas Instruments for the past 67 years. We can do more packaging and design and semiconductor production. So we position ourselves as a trusted partner in a kind of a China-free supply chain. That's how you bilaterally talk to US. Feeling ko that could be the ember or some sort of a locomotive for a new form of manufacturing.
Gusto ko yun kasi sabi mo meron pa ring design element. So meron pa ring service element dyan, di ba? Kasi a new industrial policy doesn't mean you give up on services. Kasama yon, di ba? Sabi nga ni Noel de Dios,